Hello, beloveds. Welcome to another episode of A Spiritual Remedy. My name is Sunshine Day, and what a joy it is to greet you today on what is known in the United States as Memorial Day, a day where we recognize those brave people who gave up their life that we might experience freedom as we know it. And so I want to talk a little bit about freedom, but first, what I want to, just share with you is that a spiritual remedy is here on Mondays to provide you with loving support and spiritual tools for your personal and for our global transformation in terms of community and each and every one of us getting healthier and healthier, because when it happens for one, it happens for all. It awakens humanity. It awakens us that to know that certain things are possible. When we see someone achieve something that they want, it gives me hope. It inspires me. It lifts up my vibration to go, wow, if it can happen for them, it can happen for me. Therefore, when we engage in practices, when we engage in lifting and supporting each other up in spiritual community, it is really about us doing this thing and actually having global transformation. It goes from the individual to collective, so collective transformation. So I really, really appreciate you waking up this morning and tuning in. So please say hello in the comment section. Let me know where you are tuning in from. It'd be great to see. Hey, Alina. Glad that you're with us. Good morning, beloved. Great, great day, grand rising, and top of the day to you. I trust that you are well. And let's see. Also, want to thank Vida Spiritual Learning Center, who helps to produce our show. Thank you so much for this opportunity and taking on a spiritual remedy as an outreach of the spiritual learning center that is called Vida. Vida, by the way, means life. It means life in Spanish. So it's a spiritual learning center that is about life. It is about living and about all of us living our best life. So so glad that Vida is on Facebook, on YouTube, and that we are streaming both on YouTube and on Facebook and reaching many, many people all the time. Um, what is on my mind today, especially around freedom and around our recovery and people who are turning away from the weapons of mass distraction and really turning toward their spiritual growth and unfoldment, that which is life affirming. That's, for me, that's what spiritual means, right? Like that which affirms my life, that which helps me to move forward, that which is moving me forward in the direction of my greatest and my best life, because I see people living their best life and loving it. And if we, in fact, provide each other with the spiritual tools and the loving support for our transformation, we can indeed live our best life. And so when I think about freedom, I think about courage. Courage. And so I want to talk about courage, because courage is one of the principles that is talked about a lot in 12 step, right? And in recovery circles. And so what is courage? What is courage? And and how is it that, when we take a look at writing an inventory, looking at our life, looking at the patterns of our lives, how is it that courage can actually take place? And how is it that we utilize courage to move forward? With courage, we have to have the courage to take a fearless and an honest um, inventory. And it takes us um, really having that courage within ourselves to look at this and to face the facts about our life. Hey, Jan, welcome. You know, do you have, and do I have, do we have as a community the courage to look at the patterns and behaviors that we've been engaged in so that we might find where to tweak those and where to invite spirit, life, God into our lives to have that stuff removed, the things that no longer serve us. And so we have to have the courage to take this fearless and this honest inventory of ourselves, of our lives, of our behaviors. And this step takes, it takes us, and it requires that we face the past and our shortcomings and our mistakes. It looks to us to look at what some of us might call defects of character. And I think the important part of that, as we as a people, as we as a community begin to really do that, it doesn't mean that I don't get afraid, but it means that I'm afraid, but I do it anyway, and that I do it anyway, and that I don't let my fear stop me from looking at myself and looking at the places where I can grow. Now, when I think about looking at the places where I can grow, um, I tend to think that I can get embarrassed. Like, those are some of the things that keep me from like living my best life sometimes, is this idea that if I look at this and I admit it, that there's something wrong with me. And I could really look at it from that perspective and not want to admit that, after X amount of times of sobriety. What's up, Lopez? I'm glad you're with us, Michelle. Thank you. Um, the courage that it takes to look at my behaviors and to have the mirror reflecting back on me so that I can look at the areas of my life where I am not at my very best. Now, ego gets in the way. Ego gets in the way of that. What gets in the way for you of doing an inventory or of looking at yourself, and maybe spotting some of those areas of your life? It could be, like, oh, I don't want to get on the scale because I don't want to see how much I weigh, or I don't want to look at my bank account, or I don't want to do an inventory, right? So what fears or hesitations do I have when it comes to taking a personal inventory? That's the question. Like, how about my dating life? Like, how many people am I dating? Am I dating for love, or am I dating for fun? So thank you. Alina says, yeah, the things that maybe stop me is taking responsibility for the things that I wouldn't do. Wow, absolutely, right? Like, if if I say I want to weigh, let's say 150 pounds, and I'm weighing 180 pounds, if I don't get on the scale, then I never look at it, and then I don't have to take responsibility for the things that I don't want to do, which is like begin to eat healthy, or begin a workout, or begin to, to do what's necessary. Sunny says, ego. Hello, ego. Like, are you kidding me? My life is great. I don't really need to look at that, or I don't want to have to admit that, 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 I don't want to have to admit that I'm embarrassed, and I'm only embarrassed about something is because my ego is involved. Alina says, things that maybe I did do, but an ideal circumstance I wouldn't choose to do. Yeah, like, it over and over and over again. We get an opportunity, if we're courageous enough to ask that question about ourselves. You know, what are the things that stop me? We can begin to journal. We can begin to journal around the fears and the resentments that we've been avoiding and addressing. Like what about the fears or the resentments? What about fears or resentments that you've been avoiding addressing, and how can you summon the courage to tackle it? So in terms of like, when I look at it, I'm angry, I have fear that if I look at this, I have to address it. So what are those things that you've been avoiding addressing, and how can you summons the courage to address it? It's a lot, right? It's a lot. And so today, when I'm talking about freedom and courage, that the only way to courage, the only way to freedom is through the courage that it takes to face not who we are. Because here's the bottom line, is who you really are. You are the unique, unrepeatable, magnificent, powerful, beautiful way that spirit, that life, that God shows up in human form. That's the truth of who you are. But when we allow ourselves to think that we are our race, our age, our sobriety, how many years we have, or our finances, or our status, when we think that we're just that, ego, that edging God out, instead of the healthy ego entertaining God only, right? Because now we're really looking at entertaining God only, the new ego, that entertaining God only. When we recognize that we're edging God out, we entertain God only, we entertain good only, we begin to recognize that who we really are, the unique, unrepeatable way that spirit shows up in human form. And we begin to go, wait a minute, my idea of spirit is way bigger than this thing, this behavior. And when we begin, thank you, Rev Kev, my producer, oh my gosh, you're wonderful. When we entertain God only, it is there where we actually begin to feel our oneness, our wholeness, and where we're able to entertain that deep down within every human being is that fundamental idea of spirit, right? Where the book talks about that the great reality, capital G, capital R, can be found within, where we look within ourselves and we recognize that spirit is there, and that if spirit, God, good, is greater than anything in the world, then I don't have to be embarrassed. I don't have to allow my ego to get in the way, right? You know that t-shirt, right? My ego is not my amigo. My ego is not my amigo. My ego, my edging God out, is not my friend. Right? So we begin to entertain God only. Alina says, afraid that people will confuse my behavior in survival mode with the nature of who I actually am. Yeah, because it's not who we actually are. And so when we begin our prayer, our meditation, our entertaining God only, our recognizing spirit in, through, and as everything in life, we begin to actually have that courage to face these behaviors. Jan Ford, she says, this is deep. Sometimes I tell myself, this is who I am. Or I think, why am I the only one that is always apologizing? Or like what Sunny said, it's my ego. Yeah. For me, I'm recognizing, okay, that in my own inventory, that I get to have these what is called in human experience, these codependent traits, where nobody asked me for jack diddly squat, but I want to be helpful. I want to be helpful. Let me help. Let me help. Let me help. And I'm not helping myself. And there's an imbalance. And when there's an imbalance where it's just like I help others at my own detriment, there's, and I get to look at that behavior. And sure, ego wants to say, hey, don't say that. And really don't say it on Facebook and YouTube where the whole world might be able to see it. Like, really, that's embarrassing. And it's embarrassing only if I allow ego, that edging God out, to take control. But when it's an entertaining God only, it's just like, what is a healthy way for me to be? And what is said is like, help is not help unless it's asked for, right? And if I can't give it to you, I can't loan it to you, because then I'm going to be resentful. I'm going to be in all kinds of stuff, and ultimately it's not good for me, it's not good for anybody else. And in recognizing these activities, what we get to do and what I get to do personally is I get to recognize some maybe unhealthy behaviors, some unhealthy ways of being that get to be looked at and corrected. And so I get to have affirmations in my life. I get to face it and have courage. I don't get to fake it till I make it. I get to face it till I make it. I don't have to pretend. I get to face it till I make it. And by that, I mean to have a shift in my behavior. I get to repeat my affirmations. I get to have daily time in prayer, in meditation. And one of my favorite things to do is to have daily time in visualizing. Now, visualizing is something that people don't teach much. I know we teach visioning at our spiritual center, but I want to talk about the power of visualization just for 1 minute. And that is, I begin to see myself behaving in healthy ways. And I begin to entertain that good only, entertain where I am having healthy interactions, where I am caring for myself and caring for others in interdependent ways, not in codependent ways, not in dependent ways, not in independent ways, but in interdependent ways. And I get to look at, through some journaling, through some writing, what fears or hesitations come up for me when I look at this area of how some of my behavior can be considered codependent and what that's about. And I continue to cultivate more and more courage to look at the past, to look at patterns so that I can break free from those patterns, so that I can indeed begin to enlist the help of my quote unquote higher power, that internal spirit dwelling within me, where I can not only see that I'm living a different life, a life of interdependency, to this place of like, oh, wow, this is what it means by the courage to face, the courage to change the things that I can, because I've been able to look at it, even though I was afraid. I was afraid and do it anyway. Laura, thank you for the love. I appreciate all the emojis. Thank you, beloved. So, that's the offering for today. The offering for today is around courage, because on the back side of that, right, on the other side of facing our past, facing our behaviors, facing the patterns and the ways of behaving that no longer served us, by facing that, by surrendering to sweet spirit, by incorporating and having a daily spiritual practice, on the other side of that is freedom. The freedom to simply be, the freedom of the freedom from addiction, the freedom to live life without those defects, and now looking at what are the character traits that I want to embrace, and having the freedom to really be generous, to be whole, to experience my wholeness, to experience peace and love. Beloveds, I want to tell you that on Saturday, June the 3rd, from 1 to 3 Pacific in Huntington Beach, is an open house for Vida Spiritual Learning Center. And please hit up our website, vidaslc.org. There you will find the invitation. There you will find our address. Let me know that you want to come, and I will personally send you the address and the information. The other thing too is text me your gratitude. 562-928-6460. That's also where you can message us at Vida Spiritual Learning Center. I'll send you the address for the open house. But when we appreciate that, those things in our life, they appreciate. What you appreciate appreciates. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I love you so, so much. And until next week, please know that you are loved and cherished and cared for. We appreciate you. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you next week. Bye for now.